Welcome to the Smart Property Investment Show, the podcast by investors for investors.
G'day, how you going? Phil Tarrant, host of the Smart Property Investment Show, back in the studios to talk about finance. We all know just how critical securing finance, managing your finances, being finance ready is with property investing. I've been talking about it for 10 years and there's still lots to talk about. We get stuck into it as a special topic at least a couple of times a month with our friends coming into the studio from Finney Mortgages to give us the latest of what they're seeing, what they're thinking, what they're hearing, what they're doing. Give us the insights into how other property investors are navigating this market. We pick their brain, we get these insights and hopefully share them so you can make more informed decisions. Today we actually have my mortgage broker in the studio from Finney, Rebecca Carlson, and unfortunately she needs to deal with me and I hassle her, and everything I need is always the most important thing, no doubt, and when I need it, it's very, very important, but then she'll chase me for a long time and get nothing out of it. So this is the reality of my relationship with Rebecca. You're doing some finance for me right now, aren't you?
Yes.
How's that going?
Yep.
How long until get my refinance? Soon?
Yeah. No, we're pushing it all forward, so we should have some results quite quickly.
Yeah, I'm going to move for some lenders. I'm with one
Yeah.
particular lender who they've had some changes there, and we're not really sort of happy maybe with the servicing that we've been getting.
Yeah, that's partly the reason. Also, we shopped around a little bit for you and got you a better deal. So
yeah, okay, very good.
Very
so
worthwhile.
Sharper rates.
Yeah, we can keep things pretty much the same, but obviously get you a bit more cash.
All right, that's what we need. Obviously, it's a refinancing I'm going through to sort of release some equity and continue to invest. So I'll go into some more details around that when I get stuck into it. But today, Beck, I want to chat to you about rentvesting. Now, a lot of people sort of chat about rentvesting, it being an able for people to get into the market and maybe affording places where they couldn't buy their first home. But there's a couple of sort of specific applications with it. One is for first-time investors, and there's nuances to that. And with the changes to the regime around LMI breaks under sort of this advanced government policy from the start of October, where you don't have to pay, you only have to have 5% deposit, no LMI. They removed a lot of the caps relating to the salaries that you can be getting in order to buy a first property and the value of that property. So maybe because of those things, you may get less first-time rentvestors buying their first home, but it's an area where it's often overlooked when it comes to rentvesting, and these are people who may have a bit of a seismic shift mid-lifestyle in relation to their living arrangements or their marital arrangements, and unfortunately a lot of Australians do find themselves in situations where relationships break down and houses need to be liquidated and there's divorce and everything around it. Rentvesting can often be a really smart strategy and outcome for people that find themselves in those situations. So I really wanted to chat through the dynamics of that today, because I imagine you get a lot of clients come to you saying, hey, I've got all this cash, but I don't have a house because I had to get liquidated in a divorce settlement. What's next?
Yeah, so look, I have been seeing that a bit more and more. So realistically, people in that sort of situation, they come out of the relationship, they've got a certain amount of funds. It's not enough to buy an owner-occupied where they're wanting to live. They can be unsure of themselves financially and get advice from financial planners and things like that. But ultimately, a lot of them park money in bank accounts, not sure what to do. But realistically, if they're wanting to get into the property market, it's just a case of using those funds as a deposit for something to keep building their wealth.
For investing, and people who've gone through that pathway would probably have a relationship with a lawyer who may try and shape, some information around who they should speak to do that, send into a financial planner, which might not always be the best mechanism, and that's not advice by any means, it's just my view. But to talk about those sort of mindsets, we should really get stuck into it. We'll just go to a quick break though beforehand. Stay with us, back in a moment. Welcome back, Phil Tarrant, Smart Property Investment with Rebecca Carlson from Finney Mortgage. Now, Beck, so a lot of people they go through a divorce scenario, not necessarily a nice experience that people look forward to, and they would rather not be in that space. But they go through that process, and often you hear it's amicable. More than often, you hear it's pretty not amicable, and sometimes open hostile, and then sometimes you throw into the mix kids, which even makes it more emotionally charged. So they come through that process with an outcome, but often with a level of fatigue, and also with an eye towards risk. They'll be thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do. I need time. The safest place for me is to park my money in a bank account, maybe get a couple of % interest on it, or some sort of term deposit. And that might be okay for a period of time, but you need to be widening out your mindset and maybe recalibrating your attitude a little bit, because if you go through that process, sometimes the last thing you want to do is deploying that money. You're probably thinking, I need to hold on to this forever and I can't risk it. People think that investing in property is risky, right?
Yeah. I find that some people, everyone has their own level of risk. So if they've got a certain amount of money and they're worried about their safety net, working out where their comfort level is. So hypothetically, they've got like 300,000. Okay, well, I'm happy putting 100,000 towards the next property, still keeping the nest egg, watching that property grow, and then obviously continuing on from there.
So potentially start small, get comfortable with the process, and educate yourself, because you do have the capital, and it may not be enough to actually buy, inverted commas, a family home, or buy that home you feel as though you should be in, or to buy that home that replaces what you once have. You need to really recalibrate your attitudes to all that, and that's where essentially Rentvesting may come into place, in that you may be able to replace a like for like or a similar situation where you might not be able to buy the house that you live in and continue to raise children, but you may be able to rent that at a sort of similar level and leverage that money elsewhere through investment. So it's no doubt a process you need to go through to really understand what your core drivers are. But if you're able to secure financing, the Rentvesting pathway might work. What sort of questions would you be sort of asking yourself, or would you pose to a potential client around this? Is it really sort of serviceability and appetite for paying for taking on debt, which will be offset by rent, but then also this understanding that you're going to be paying rent for property that's not really going to a mortgage?
Yeah, well, look, I think that people that are in that situation, when they've got money parked in the bank, they're already renting. So that part of it's taken out of the equation. We're just looking at building their wealth through investing in property. So, yeah, as I said, I'd probably look at what their risk appetite is. So how far, how quickly. I mean, I've dealt with some divorced people that are like, well, I want to get back to where I was before. So they go really hard. So they really put everything into it, do regular checks in on their portfolio, pull out equity, throw it at the next one, really trying to get back to where they were before the separation. But everyone's different. So just working out what their long-term goals are as well.
So that could be a strategy with some people. Say if the goal is to get back into a similar property that you had prior to the separation, property investment can be a real enabler for building equity, right? Equity that can be extracted to raise those funds, that deposit, to actually secure that principal place of residence in time, and that being, rather than having your, and by the way, this is not advice by any means, but rather than having that money sitting idle in a bank account getting some interest, you actually have it in the market in well-placed capital growth orientated properties that you can drive that growth over a period of time, and then you can either potentially refinance that, and that's your deposit for a new home, or you can sell down those assets and put all of that into a principal place of residence. So it can be a smart tool. If you don't know about this stuff, like are accountants recommending this stuff, or do you think lawyers are sort of giving these insights through divorce proceedings? Do you hear anything like that saying, hey, you should go and speak to X, Y, Z?
Yeah, look, I'd probably say accountants step in more than anyone else in that regard. I think lawyers stay right out of it because they don't want to be giving any sorts of financial advice.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think having chats with buyers agents, getting an understanding of what is possible in the property market, like what type of growth you can get. Those sort of projections would help.
And you might not be able to sort of play at the same level as what you were when you did have a family home or you did have a dual income. So again, it's an absolute recalibration to how you frame things. But getting started and taking a pathway of action will certainly get you to the right point. But let's chat about that for a moment. We'll just go to another break. Stay with us. Welcome back, Phil Tarrant, chatting with Rebecca over at Finney Mortgages. Now, Beck, you might have some challenges securing finance if you've come out of a divorce, or you may need to reset your thinking of what you may or should be buying, because you may have gone from 2 incomes to obviously 1 income. Maybe you've had to re-enter the workforce if you have been recently divorced, because previous to that you may have spent the majority of your focus on building a family and managing a family unit, and now you may find yourself back in the workforce doing stuff like. So it can be a lot of big and small stepping stones for people to embark on what is a new life. But property investment can be quite enlightening, knowing people who have been through this, where it actually gives them a mechanism to take control, right, and feel as though they can actively change their circumstances. And the fact that you can enter property markets with there's many tools available to you, like LMI, to reduce the deposits and other things. Getting started can go a long way to shifting sort of or shaping mental clarity.
Yeah, definitely. I was just going to say that there seems to be a thing like young single investors don't have the fear that a separated person does, obviously because of kids and other financial commitments. But you've just got to try and push it as hard as you're happy to get to the next steps.
Yeah, and there's often a good cause for the reluctance around the risk. To the point it can be quite a lot of people do go through the millstone when they go through that pathway, and they can come out the other side, not very happy and not only having to handle what, orientating themselves around what their new life looks like, but, the maybe heightened responsibility around their finances and all that sort of stuff. So I can get often the reluctance around it. And on that basis, you need to surround yourself with people who have the right attitude and aptitude towards it. But, for people who may be a little bit more ambitious, speaking to a good mortgage broker like you guys, may be able to sort of shape how and give some clarity to how quickly they can move if they do have, $200,000-$300,000 in cash. You can do a lot of damage with that, all right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So just as an example, if you've got $100K in capital that you want to deploy into an investment property, what are you looking at there? Like what sort of value property are you looking at with $100K in cash? How far does that get you?
Look, I'd be going off the top of my head, but you could probably get up to a 90% lend. I don't know, 450 mark.
Yeah, okay.
Off the top of my head.
Yeah, so sort of 450, maybe a little bit more. Get you started in the property investing, assuming that you want that property to grow as quickly as you possibly can, so you can realise and extract that equity to keep growing and evolving to whatever outcome you're looking for, and that might be to get back into a principal-based residence or maybe continue to rent.
Yeah, just continue and build up your property portfolio for your end of life wealth.
Yeah. That's cool. I get it. I haven't really thought too much about using Rentvesting in that sequence or scenario, but it's probably a real enabler for a lot of people.
Yeah, and do you know what? I think talking about people that have gone through this sort of situation, I think buying, like taking the first step and buying a place, even if it isn't their first, like their owner-occupied property, it gives them some confidence back.
Yeah.
That, yes, I can do this. So, I mean, it's really worth just having the conversation, running the numbers, seeing what it looks like.
So if people call you up going, hey, I've been recently divorced, I was divorced 12 months ago, I've had this money sit in the bank account, it's time for me to take action. What do I do? Yeah. You're happy to have those chats?
Yeah. We can work out what's potentially possible. Very rough what their out-of-pockets would be, so they can factor it into the current budget. if there is an outlay, and it's up to them on where their comfort sits.
Yeah, and that's the opportunity that will dictate and determine where you do buy. But you need to remember that any new debt you're taking on related to investment property a lot of it is offset by the rent that you receive. So it's really the out-of-pocket expenses at a weekly, monthly, yearly point of view. Are you able to carry that negative cash flow before tax? And that's the key thing, and that's the core number that you need to be comfortable with. If you go, oh yeah, look, I could find $100 a week, $50 a week, whatever the number is, but it'll change the type of properties you potentially secure because you may be looking for higher yielding stuff. But my recommendation is just have a chat with the team at Finney. If you've just gone and done that, I know you probably had a chat today on this, right? This is probably one of the reasons why we thought, this would be a good topic, because they do come along.
Yeah. And it's funny because I am seeing more and more ways that people are more reasons why people are rent investing.
Yeah. Okay, good one. Well, thanks for coming in.
Oh, thank you.
Check these guys. Where do you find them? Finney Mortgages, Finney.com.au, FINNI.com.au. Or you can just give them a call. Just Google them and track them down. If that is a scenario, or you are thinking of someone that may fall into this. We all have a friend who's been recently divorced, and we know some of the trials and tribulations around that as people start a new life in a very different sort of setting. Sometimes you can feel a bit sort of financially disadvantaged for a little while, but with the right attitude and the right advice and the right partners, you can certainly get on the way to property ownership once again. So don't be scared. Get into it. Ask questions. That would be my recommendations. Thanks for tuning in. This is smartpropertyinvestment.com.au. Remember to go and check us out online or on social media. You can track us down, like us, follow us, and do all the other good social media stuff. We'll see you again next time. Until then, bye-bye.
The information featured in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into consideration your financial situation or individual needs and should not be relied upon. Before making any investment, insurance, tax, property, or financial planning decision, you should consult a licensed professional who can advise whether your decision is appropriate for you. Guests appearing on this podcast may have a commercial relationship with the companies mentioned.